difficult living condition today. And for me, those are the real heroes of Nigeria, those who open their doors and their houses before even we arrive and host their fellow countrymen and women and provide support. So you have also at this level where the local communities which have been hosting displaced personnel today at the same level of vulnerability of the internally displaced people. So the needs there are equal for both sides. When we are in certain location to assess needs, we will discover that, for example, if you take a health clinic or access to quality drinking water or needs for shelter after the rainy season, we will find sometime that those who are from the city or from the local government area are at the same level of need are those who had been arriving as displaced.
Okay. Emmanuel, if you're back now, let's look at how it's been. Now, I asked you a question about how many people have been aided back to normalcy, especially considering also that before this incident of insurgency, the area had been vexed, in quotes, because of lack of infrastructural development. So talk to us about what's going on.
Yeah, thank you, Nata. I think clearly the issues we can never overemphasize the fact that you still have very serious security challenge in the Northeast as we speak. I'll be telling you a lie if I tell you that, oh, XYZ number have returned to normalcy, because that's not correct. What you have here is a situation where we are grappling with emergency operation, but trying to ensure that we move into the stabilization and the development aspect, which is more sustainable, which is cheaper than the emergency. Have we gone out of emergency completely? The answer is no. How many people have returned to normalcy? I cannot give you that figure right now. IOM and UNHCR are in charge of migration and data collection. A lot of the LGAs are 100% under the control of the military. And as long as they are under the control of the military, pending when civilian authority returns to these LGAs and infrastructure is, provided.
We'll have to get back to you, Osemeka.
Provided that the people are able.
Okay, while we work on getting back to you, let's bring in Oluseyi again. Oluseyi, now that's Northeast, so you have about 242 humanitarian organizations trying to help the people there. But in the other part of the country, you have issues of people displaced, people vexed by one situation or the other. They can't stay in their home. They need some level of assistance. How has it been?
I think more focus has been on the Northeast because of the severity of those issues. Like you just mentioned, we've had issues around flooding, which I want to consciously assume that NEMA is dealing with that. Now we're seeing the outbreak of yellow fever in Edo or somewhere. So we keep having these pockets of crisis here and there. But, the severity requires some level of prioritization also. And there's also the need for us as a country to now start looking at some of these dynamics that we keep seeing over time and begin to find ways of planning more for them and also preparing for them. Nobody wants an emergency. Nobody wants a crisis. But in the last 5 years or 10 years, we've seen these as our realities. And how do we then quickly ensure that we respond to that, both as government, as civil society, as multilateral organizations, and also as citizens? Are we also able to help ourselves to ensure that we are able to get out of this crisis and get out of it in good time? Like my colleagues have all said, we need to move from emergencies to development and also ensuring that people can go back to their normal lives and normal businesses. That is not happening at this time in the Northeast. That is what we all so much desire, such that the displaced people that we have there and elsewhere can quickly pick up back their life and ensure that we reintegrate them back into communities and they can continue to live a decent life like all of us are enjoying
Okay. Hatim, you spoke about difficulty in accessing some of these areas, and he has mentioned flooding. But we have moved away now from the rainy season. Now that we're going into the dry season, or we have gone into the dry, in fact, the hammer time is upon us, will access be easier for humanitarian work to continue seamlessly?
The difficulty of access, when it's linked with geographical reasons or with weather, it's seasonal. So we know that it's a couple of months, and then after we will be able to access. But the challenges in access that I was referring to is linked with security. And there is huge security issues at stake at this point. That's why it is difficult to reach certain locations or to go beyond certain areas. But inside entrenched local or LGAs or a certain location, yes, we can access. Some areas we can go by helicopters, and other areas we can access by road. So also the means of going there will determine to what extent we will be able to stay and to what extent we will be able to provide assistance. Despite all these challenges, there is good efforts in place. I believe that things are changing in terms of the number of locations that we can go to. If we go back to 2015, we can mainly be in Maiduguri around the internally displaced camps. They were around 23 at that time. Today, we are in Dikwa, in Angala, in Mongono, in Pulka, in Goza, and Dambua, and so on and so forth. So you can see that there is more and more locations that we can go to and access to provide assistance. This being said, we still acknowledge that other locations are beyond our efforts and beyond our reach. And we also acknowledge that the condition, humanitarian condition, within which we find the newly arriving internally displaced personnel is quite worrisome.
The question of funding here, in terms of local and international partners providing the funds that are needed. Oluseyi talked about the amount of money. He mentioned $1.2 billion, and what's available so far is just a little over $600 million. How is it working out in that area?
The donors, so there is a number of donors committed to the humanitarian assistance, and there is also the reference to the new way of working and Nexus, which is a development aspect of it. Organizations, if you want to know the mechanism of how we function, is that organizations will go and assess needs in certain areas. Based on this assessment of needs, we will identify the number of people who are in need for food, water, protection, education, latrines, and so on and so forth. So the full spectrum of human being needs with the number of personnel who need to be reached. Then a proposal will be developed, submit to donors. Donors have very specific requirements that we have to meet in terms of accountability, transparency in the expenditure of this fund, and reporting back to donors on how things had been going. So this is how it works. For the time being, there is a good commitment to Nigeria from donor sides, and we had been using these funds in different areas of intervention and reporting back on what had been done so far.
Okay.
Yes. Staying with you, Hatim, you mentioned that sometimes you are not able to access some places because of security concerns. How helpful have the security agencies been to you?
Security agencies, well, the main point of access is to know that a road can be taken without any security incident, without risking the staff lives. Trucks can go and reach final destination carrying all these humanitarian goods and relief items, and that population can be reached or they can reach us. So security agencies will try to give you information about what is going on. Then we decide accordingly. We send our teams as well on the road to assess the situation from one location to another. But sometimes you will know that from the first checkpoint, you will be told, no, we cannot proceed further because there is, the situation is not safe.
Okay, Hatim, I beg your pardon, I have to interrupt you here, but we need to take a quick break. When we come back, continue the conversation. Please stay with us.